Hi everybody, I'm Blitz and welcome back to our continued playthrough of Assault Games Sicily 43. In a previous episode, the US forces dug into the contested farmstead. The Germans and the US forces exchanged a ton of fire to little effect. The battle has reached somewhat of a stalemate, with the Germans trying to dig the US forces out. Let's jump into turn 5 as this battle approaches its halfway mark. Let's do a quick recap. In the previous episode, the US forces dug in around the contested episode with a Ranger squad and 2 half squads, another Ranger squad supporting it, the armor's down here, and they dug in around this position, solidifying it. The Germans and the US forces exchanged a lot of volleys back and forth, but not to much avail. The US did, however, take out the German anti-tank gun down here. From the US perspective, they hold 2 of the victory objectives right now, so they're just trying to dig in and put the burden of work, if you would, on the German forces. Now, the German plan up to now has been to try to blow away some of the units that are defending these positions here, and then perhaps try to advance and retake this farmhouse, or take the farmhouse. However, Stumptonian in the previous video posted an interesting comment. He said maybe the German forces should go after the other US strong point, which isn't necessarily, it's a very, very interesting question, because there's a machine gun here, anti-tank gun, mortar, sniper, and a bazooka team. All of the Rangers are down here. Perhaps that is a more interesting option. But for now, we're going to kind of exchange a little bit of fire. I'd like to see if the Germans can knock out this anti-tank gun and the Stuart. And from the US perspective, if they can do some damage, as we'll take a look now at the troop management board, if they can do some damage, they might pick up the win. And we're looking now at the troop management board, which reflects that potential for the US to win the battle by knocking out more German troops, because the German pressure rating right now is at a 3. And the loss point totals, if you would, if they were to knock out, for example, the Panzer IIIJ and 2 more rifle squads, that should put them enough to ratchet this up 2 more places, which could potentially force the Germans to withdraw. There is a die roll here. So the US could inflict damage to win in addition to just staying where they are. The Germans, however, with the US holding this other position, have a higher road. They really need to shift one of these victory positions or do a lot of damage to get the US to crack. We'll see what happens here as we jump into turn 5. As always, we'll start the turn with the initiative roll. Germans are the red die. US has the initiative, which is going to give them a chance to fire twice, and maybe even this Stuart, which has been suppressed the past couple times, will get a chance to get a shot off. So the US has the initiative for the turn. We're now going to allocate the command points. Once again, I'm doing that off screen, and I'll make note of anything that impacts play. The US forces have 8 command point allocations, command tokens. The Germans are down to 6, so there'll be a little bit more actions that the US are able to take in this turn. With that being said, it's time to go to the support phase, and that's where we have indirect fire. This mortar unit is going to fire again, and I liked a lot of the decisions that both sides made in the previous episode, just that they couldn't hit anything. But I do think this makes sense to take the mortar, try to drop some shots on these rifles here, which could be in a rather exposed position. There are some crater covers, but it's a pretty good shot. So mortars are going to open up on the rifles. Mortar team is firing with 2 greens and a blue. It failed its spotting roll, which adds a green die to the defenders here, but they lose it because of the indirect fire nature of the attack. US mortars open fire. Ooh! They didn't get anything last time, but that is an impressive shot. They have found the range now. 2 criticals and 2 hits on the rifle squad. Oh, the rifle squad takes cover rather astutely though. Still, damage dealt for the first time in a while. So negating things here, the critical hit and the critical hit negate each other. The hit and the hit on these negate each other. The critical hit gets through, however, which does a damage point to this squad. So casualties inflicted, and there's also a suppression result here too. So this squad is suppressed. We drop the suppressed marker on it, and the other thing is there is a leftover critical hit to assess. So we're going to roll green against blue and see what the result is. No effect. So the critical hit has no effect. However, the US mortars take some effective fire in this turn. This segment of the battle starts off on a much more deadly note than the last turn. Casualties inflicted already. That ends the support phase for both sides, as neither sides will take action here. Now we go to the operations phase, the actions phase, if you would, and the US get to start off first. So this Stuart tank pulled up with the squad, got its treads blown off, and has been peppered by German fire from the Panzer IIIJ and from the Tiger. It's belching smoke, but its gun is still functional. They've suffered casualties. They're down to basically, they're a tattered, shattered wreck, but I think they're going to try to get revenge because their gun's still working. We're going to have them take a shot because I know the Germans are going to try to put them away in this turn. So we're going to try to get a shot off before that happens. And just for kicks, we're going to have the Stuart try to get revenge on that Panzer IIIJ. It's a tough shot, actually, when you do the math. Red, green, blue, firing for the Stuart. And because it's at half strength, any results that have 2 results on them only have their stronger result. Oh, still, that's a great shot. Critical and a hit means 2 criticals for the Stuart. That's a pretty good shot. Panzer IIIJ. Oh, so it stopped the hits. Nothing, it doesn't stop anything. The 2 critical hits get through from the Stuart because the hits don't negate the critical hits. So without rolling those 2 critical hits as a defensive roll, the Panzer IIIJ is hit twice. So the Panzer IIIJ with the 2 critical hits takes 2 hits and is reduced to half strength. And we have to roll for the critical hit. Now, when there are multiple critical hits, you roll all the dice at once and you take the one single strongest result of the attacker here. So it is a hit. So the hit as a critical hit against the vehicle means no damage points are applied. The vehicle immediately performs a fallback. If it's immobilized, it's eliminated. That's not the case. It was already marked fallback, it's eliminated. So the vehicle, the Panzer IIIJ, must fall back. So in a fallback situation, the tank can either back up or turn and move back, but it has to do a fast action move, which is 4 movement points. I'm going to have the Panzer IIIJ, it should retreat. I don't want to have it turn around because it can take shots here from some of these other US tanks. So at that full movement of 4, it's going to back up 2 hexes. We'll have it go exactly right here. However, when it gets here, as a unit is falling back, one of the opposing units can perform a reaction fire. We're going to have the Stuart here open up and take a shot as this tank backs up. We've got it on the run and we've got it damaged. So we're going to open fire with the Stuart here as this one is moving back. Not the greatest shot again, but it didn't help the Panzer IIIJ the last time here. Red, green, and blue opening fire here. Ooh, not bad. 2 hits and a critical hit, although I would suspect with all these dice that the Panzer IIIJ is going to survive. Let's see what happens. Oh, no! Once again, it negates 3 hits, but it doesn't negate the critical hit. Another critical hit on the Panzer IIIJ. So it takes damage again, and this time it has to roll for the critical hit one more time. So one of the things we do when a unit falls back is we tag it with this fallback marker. If a unit gets a second fallback in the same well, it's got this marker on, it's eliminated. The Panzer IIIJ, if it takes a damage hit on this one, could be eliminated from the battle. Green against blue, it's a damage hit. No damage points are applied. The vehicle immediately performs a fallback, and a unit can't perform 2 fallbacks. The Panzer IIIJ, I could imagine this, they get hit a second time and drilled, and this time casualties and the crew evacuates. They abandon the vehicle. The Panzer IIIJ is knocked out by the incredible firing of the 2 US Stuarts. The loss of the Panzer IIIJ has an immediate impact on the battle because it's worth a big 14 points. That takes this marker all the way back up, all the way back down, and brings it up to 3, which raises the German stress level to level 4. They are closing in with just a few more casualties. They may have to withdraw from the battle, which would give the US forces the victory. It's a devastating start for the Germans here. Not only that, but they must also lose a command token with this unit. They hadn't taken any actions in the turn, which reduces them down to 5 actions this turn. A huge sequence of events for the US to start off the 5th turn. Boy, this changes. This makes it so hard for the Germans now. They've got 5 actions. This unit's suppressed. The Panzer IIIJ is destroyed. Oh man, this is a tall order now. I don't necessarily see a way forward unless this Tiger can start blowing things apart, which is probably the best strategy at this point. We're going to have it do I think we can get away with a move and fire to have it close in a little bit on the range on these. And this Stuart is still deadly, and it should be in some easy kind of morale points here. So we're going to have the Tiger do a fire and move. moving fire here, and it's going to come up. And the question is, do we want to have this Stuart, which is lingering off the bottom down here, take a shot at this Stuart? The building in the way is actually a pretty big detriment, and it's firing at a Tiger tank. I think those are rather sad odds for the Sherman here. So we're going to have the Sherman hold, despite the fact that everyone's gotten pretty lucky with their shots so far. So the Tiger's going to open up on this Stuart, see if it can knock it out to take out that firepower. So this should be a shot that worked. It didn't work last time for the 2 units that fired it. A lot of attack dice here and an automatic suppression result because the Stuart is a recruit level tank. Although it has not performed like a recruit in this battle. Hanging on, that is 2 hits, 4 hits, and 2 suppressions, making it 4 hits and 3 suppressions in total. Looking a little bit grim for the Stuart here. Let's see what happens. Can it defend itself? A single hit would wipe it out. It gets 3 hits, 4 hits. It's enough to negate 3 of the hits, but not a 4th hit, nor a suppression. The Stuart takes 1 more damage, and it is eliminated. Stuart is worth 6 more points for it. Was half damaged already. It's worth a total of 12, so we add down to 0, then back up to 5. US crosses again. They approach their 2nd pressure level, so a rather effective shot there. Both sides lose a tank early in this exchange. See if the US can gain quick retribution in what is turning out to be a very violent exchange here. We're going to have the anti-tank gun open fire on the Tiger. Could fire at the infantry, but it's not very effective at the infantry. This is a long shot, but we do have the Tiger in the open and there's no obstructing terrain, so it's a clear shot, doesn't need to be spotted. If we look at the attack dice rolls, we get 2 red for the anti-tank gun here. Defending, the Tiger has 3 red and a green for its armor, which is a lot. And it gets a blue as well because of its elite status there. It's a veteran status. So let's see what the anti-tank gun can do. US have been very lucky so far. Oh, 2 hits and a suppression. That's a pretty good shot. I just don't think it's going to be enough for the Tiger here unless they have extraordinarily bad luck here. I do need to grab this. We'll just switch that out. Need another red die here. 3 hits and a suppression. Yeah, no effect by the anti-tank gun on the Tiger here. So let's go to the German turn now. Time for the Germans to respond. I'm toying about the idea of trying to get them over here to take this victory position, but I don't think we can get squads across this open space with all of the fire from the farmhouse and over here converging on them. We do have to weaken these positions. Thinking about having the infantry squads fire at the anti-tank gun, but the range makes that less than desirable. I do want to try, though, however, a concentrated joint fire shot on this half squad in the woods here. So this will activate this one, and these 2 squads, 2 adjacent squads, can join in. All 3 squads opening fire on this strong point right here. Let's calculate the attack. All right, here we are. So the squad itself gets a red, blue, green, and then the joint fire adds their strongest die roll. There are no line of sight obstructions here or anything else, so they get to use their red die. So 3 red dice, a green and a blue. This is the strongest attack these infantry can kind of muster on this position. Unfortunately, with all of the stone wall in the woods and the dug-in status and their experience level and their just natural defense, these Rangers get a ton of defense dice. So it's a tough shot here still. Let's see if the Germans can have any luck. All 3 Ranger squads opening fire. Oh, that's a pretty good shot. 5 hits and a suppression here. Let's see if the US can defend. The Ranger squad hunkers down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They covered it, right? 6. Yeah, they got it. 6 hits covered and a suppression. All of those squads firing. No effect on the Ranger squad here. So, yeah, it's a tough order here for the Germans now. They just are lacking. I mean, the Tiger's the big thing, but can only fire once per turn. Let's see what the US might want to do to respond. So time for the US to respond, but most of the German stuff now is activated. The sniper back here is a little bit something to be wary of, but these tank hunter half squads, these tank hunter teams, more effective against armor close up and not super effective at long range against infantry. This is suppressed, everything else is acted. It's tough order now for the Germans, and in retrospect, I think picking better tools for the job would have helped the Germans a lot for this scenario. By having no smoke, no mortars, no machine guns, it's really kind of limited their ability to kind of loosen up this strong point. I mean, they still have the Tiger, and that's a story yet to be told, so we'll see how it goes. But for the US, let's get them to act in this turn. I want to move the Sherman up. And one of the thinkings, I think pushing forward with the Tiger and maybe even some kind of crazy bold rush because of its invulnerability might be one of the good options for the Germans. And so I'd like to get a flanking shot on that if it happens. And I think rather than having this Sherman cower behind the building here, it's time to get it up into a better firing position. So if the Tiger moves ahead, it can shoot it from the side, force the Tiger to deal with it, and maybe even get some shots from the Sherman up on this infantry. So we're gonna do a fast action move. 1, 2, 3, which is their total movement. 4 for the final move, and then it can pivot once, 1 vertex for free. That's a fast action move for the Sherman, puts it in a good position. This is still a frontal shot here for the Tiger, but it's getting close. Yeah, it's still a frontal shot, I think, coming through the front there. Yeah, it is, right? Yep. But it's getting close to the side. If the Tiger moves forward, it's invulnerable. It's gonna force some action by the Germans and gives the Sherman some nice firing lines up on this infantry too. So, Sherman's done, time for the Germans to act. I'm gonna have the Germans pass. I don't see really good options with the tank hunters that would do anything except get them killed. The sniper doesn't really have any kind of a shot until these Rangers do something. Could have the US pass in response and force the end of the turn, but I do want to try something with the Rangers because of this unit right here. We're going to have this squad and this squad do combined fire right here on attacking on this one. They got some pretty good shots, and even though this is kind of taking cover with better defense, we could knock this squad out. It would go a long way towards kind of pushing the Germans to a withdrawal standpoint. So it makes sense to open fire. Let's do it. It's actually a pretty good shot with this half squad joining in. They get a second red die. German gets defense for its unit, defense for being in the craters, and then a little bit of a defense for being suppressed. But it's not a bad shot here for the US. I'm going to roll these dice separate because this one from the half squad, only the greatest result counts if we get 2. So the US open fire here with both Ranger squads. Oh, 3 hits there. And now for the other squad, that's a hit and a suppression. So 4 hits by the US squad here. That's going to be tough for the rifles here to defend. Cowering down, they've already been peppered once with fire and taken casualties. Oh, they cover it. 4 hits. They make the defense. Oh, but they did not cover the suppression. Aha! And this means they've taken a second suppression in the same turn. The second suppression in the turn means they have to fall back, which is going to make things interesting now because we can do one other thing as the US. It seems to make sense to try to head up here for this grove. So we will have them move here, and right at this point we're going to have the machine gun over here open fire on them with reaction fire. Not the greatest shot for this machine gun, and I think the values on this machine gun have been upgraded in the latest iteration of the game. They get a green, blue at this rather long range shot. The defending value is a yellow here for this squad. They also gain a yellow and a green for intervening terrain, but they lose the green because they are in the middle of a fast action fallback move. So here's our attack. Machine gun opens fire. Ooh, pretty good. 2 hits and a suppression. And if the suppression stays, that would be a second fallback, which would mean that this rifle squad's going to evacuate the field here. Let's see how the Rangers, not the Rangers, but the German rifle squad retreating. Oh, they cover it. A brilliant defensive maneuver as they fall back. This will allow them now to continue on 2 and then 3 to get back up here into this position here. They've performed their fallback move, but they've evacuated their forward position. US have taken another action. We go to the German turn now. Germans have 3 actions left, 3 units left to take them. I don't see necessarily good options for pushing forward with these tank hunters. They just don't have the firepower, really, I think, to create much of a problem for the US. Sniper is yet to fire. Let's have it open fire on this Ranger half squad here, see if it can cause some casualties. Sniper gets a yellow and a blue. Rangers get 3 yellows, 2 greens, and a blue. I mean, the wall, the woods, the experience, they're dug in. It's just kind of nasty. However, the sniper shot does negate one of the strongest defense dice. This would have to be incredibly lucky for the Germans to have any kind of an effect. 1 hit, yeah, but that's just going to be like a rifle shot cracking off the side of the wall, I think. There's no way they're going to miss all. Yeah, nothing happens there. Germans running out of options quickly. It's time for the US to go. They only have 1 action left. With the last US action, we're going to have the Rangers pull up. We're going to have this squad here give up their dug-in status, cut behind the building here, and right at this point, even though it's a very long shot, the Germans can use 1 last command token that's free that they can attach to the tank hunters. They do have a second command token, but it's attached to a rifle squad, and all of those have activated. This tank hunter squad right here is going to take a very improbable long shot at the Rangers moving in the open here. I'll calculate it and see what it looks like. Not a good shot at all. One single green die against all these defensive dice. It's a very long shot for them. They do get a hit. We'd have to roll goose eggs on everything here for the Rangers. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay, so the Rangers are able to complete their move up into this building. They give up their dug-in status. Then we can have this other Ranger squad push up in here and really consolidate around this, as well as providing fire lanes to the north. With that, the Germans have one token left. The US have none. And so that brings us to the end of this turn. The Germans right now are sitting at 4 on their pressure track. A few more casualties would push them into a possible withdrawal situation. Looking really good for the US. Those shots on the Panzer IIIJ had some pretty deadly effect. Let's go on to turn 6. So we head into turn 6, things looking good for the US. They've pushed back the German attack, inflicted casualties by taking out the tank and the anti-tank gun. They've got the Germans on the brink of a withdrawal position with a few more casualties. It could be a US victory. Germans need to find a way forward, and perhaps the answer lies in that Tiger tank. Let's roll for initiative. Germans have initiative at 4-1. That will certainly help. As we start in on turn 6, about 2/3 of the way through the battle right now, the planning phase, I've allocated all the command points. Just as a side reference, the US have 7 commands left due to casualties. The Germans have 5, so the turns are getting a little bit shorter and more compact now. We're going to go to the support phase. The Germans will pass on their initiative. They don't have anything to do. This mortar squad, as usual, mortar team will fire for the US. And from the US perspective, we're going to try to do damage. If we could wipe out 2 more German squads or any kind of combination of 2 more German units, except for those tank hunters, it would be battle over. So we're going to try to drop some mortars onto these hunters here, and we're going to have this machine gun unit here spot for them. So we will calculate the attack and let the mortars fly. Pretty straightforward attack. It's the green, green, blue from the mortar strength here, the terrain and the squad's defense here, and they lose 1 because you always lose the weakest die, and against an indirect fire attack, the mortars let loose. Oh, 1 hit, not dialing in the range. Should be a pretty easy response. Yes, it is. So no effect for the US mortars here. And now we go to the operations phase of the turn. The Germans are up, and whatever shall we do with them? One path forward for the Germans here is if this Tiger tank can destroy a lot of the high value units of the US, which is this anti-tank gun, the Stuart, and the Sherman. It's tall order with only a few rounds of combat left. It's also got to be a little bit concerned about getting flanked by these units. To that end, we're going to have it fire at the anti-tank gun. Every one of these shots has some negative connotations to it in terms of spotting and things like that, but I think they all kind of even out. So we're going to take a shot here at the anti-tank gun, see if we can put that out of action quickly, allowing the Tiger to concentrate on the town and the Stuart and the Sherman here. The Tiger failed to spot the anti-tank gun, which gives the anti-tank gun another little bit of an advantage here. Not the greatest attack overall. Shooting these other targets might have been better. Get red, red, blue, blue here. The Tiger at range opens up. Missed 1. Are you serious? 1 hit? Oh my goodness, what a terrible shot. We're back in one of these rounds, right? The mortar team was terrible too. We're back in one of these rounds where nobody hits anything. This is so easily defended. That really leaves the Germans in a bind now. They need to do some damage here. We go to the US now. We are going to live boldly with this Sherman tank. If it moves forward a little bit, it can get to the closest and most deadly range. It's still firing at the front, so we're going to have it activate it and do a fire and move. Now, it did a fast action move the previous turn, so it raced up here to get up here, so it loses an attack die. Range of 4, it's going to open up at the Tiger, and it's just coming through the front, so the Tiger gets to use its frontal armor, thankfully for the Tiger. But the Sherman, at close range, opens up. Yeah, this frontal armor of this Tiger is no joke. It's 3 reds and a green. The Sherman gets 2, but because it's moved here, it loses, because it moved in that fast action last time, loses attack die. It gets a couple other bonus because of its veteran status and because the Sherman moved this time as well. So not the most likely shot here, but we'll open up here with the Sherman and see if it can get lucky. It's going to need a lot of luck. 2 hits, that's not going to be nearly lucky enough. It just... yeah, there's no way that the German tank is going to not succeed here. Yeah, look at that. That's not even close. So the Sherman fired and moved. We get rid of this, and that takes care of the US activation. We go to the German activation now. Boy, beyond the Tiger tank here, the Germans really don't have a lot of good options. These are not good shots at these dug-in positions, and they don't have much that they can use to kind of root them out. This quickly might be approaching the Germans conceding victory here, although we want to see what this Tiger tank can do going forward a little bit. But with that being said, for the sake of trying to get something going, we're going to have this rifle squad and the tank hunters do joint fire here on the anti-tank gun. That looks like it could be somewhat of a susceptible target, so let's see if they can shake something loose here. It's not a bad shot for the Germans here. The additional tank hunter fire adds 1 weak die here, but it's an unobstructed line of sight for the rifle squad down through here, and it's really only the terrain and the unit's inherent defense. So let's see if the Germans can get lucky and shake something loose. They succeeded on their spotting roll too. Ooh, that's pretty good. 5 hits, 2 of which are critical hits. Let's see if the US can, oh, this could be tough. This could be, anti-tank gun could be in trouble, and it is. It only manages to stop 1 hit, which means that 2 critical hits and 2 hits get through. It rips apart the anti-tank gun and it is knocked out of action. And this changes things a little bit and gives the Germans a glimmer of hope now. Anti-tank gun is worth 10 big points, taking us all the way up across the top and back down to 2 here, raising the US pressure level. That was a big shot for the Germans. The US lose a command token as well, so they are down to 4 commands left in this turn. Germans still have 3 left. Let's see if the US can extract some revenge. We're gonna have the Stuart. It's got actually a very fine, clear line of sight right up here to the tank hunters. And they have fired now, so they don't have to spot them, which helps a lot. So we're gonna have the Stuart do a move and fire, which should work out pretty well. And we're going to tag it with that. The movement is just going to be its free vertex change there. So that gives it a chance to fire directly without having to turn its turret, and it will count. We'll see how this attack works out. All in all, a pretty good attack here for the US. We get red, blue, blue. It's maybe balanced. See what happens. Stuart opens fire. Gets 3 hits, suppression, and 2 hits. Tank hunters cower down. They block it all. No effect by the US. Things have worked well for the Germans this turn so far. I think the Germans are going to pass. These are terrible shots and they can't really go anywhere, so we're going to wait to see what the US do. I think for the US perspective, it makes sense to try to take this out because it's fired and don't have to spot it, so it should be a pretty decent attack here. And we can have this squad open fire. Actually, we'll have this one. Have this one open fire here, and this one, these 2 provide supporting fire. So we'll calculate the attack. Turns out to be not a bad attack for the US. A lot of red die, although these 2, only 1 result will count because they're from half squads. So let's have the US open fire here. Rangers take aim at the German squad. Ooh, 3 hits. That's a good start for the Rangers here. These 2 will only count the strongest result. They get 2 more hits. That's, oh my gosh, that's 5 hits, 1 of which is a critical. German squad takes fire. Oh! That's bad. That's bad for the Ranger squad. 5 hits and they only stop 1, 2, 3, 1. Oh, they only stop 1 of them. That means 4 get through. This rifle squad is cut to ribbons and taken apart. Oh, heavy losses for the Germans here, for both sides now with that. The joint fire really doing damage here. So this rifle squad is eliminated. Let's see how it impacts the calculation here for victory. Rifle squad is 6 points, taking us all the way up to, they are on the border of being forced to withdraw here. We're gonna have this German unit here move up in a hide action to try to take this ground that was just lost in the previous round. That takes 1 action. Now, while they are doing that, I guess it doesn't really matter when it happens. So we'll have the US hold, we'll go to the US activation. We're gonna have this machine gun here open fire on the unit that just moved up. Not a great shot as this squad sneaks up, but let's have the machine gun take a shot anyway. Oh, it loses its weakest attack die too, so that's the blue. So a yellow and green, 2 hits. I don't think that's going to be enough given everything it's got to defend with. The rifle squad looks pretty safe here. Yeah, very safe indeed. Well, they actually only got 2, but yeah, it does no effect there. So that takes us down to 1 US action and 1 German action. With the last US action, because that was a defensive firing here, let's move that off. With the last US action, we're going to have this Ranger squad take a long shot at the tank hunters up here. Very long shot, but we'll see what happens here. Yeah, this would need to be pretty lucky here. Long shot for the Rangers. They get 2 hits, which isn't bad with these greens, but a lot of defense here for the tank hunters. Ooh, oh, they just get it. A critical and a hit blocks it. So no impact here for the US. Rangers have fired. We go to the last German action. Oh, that is their last German action. They have no more actions. Oh, no, they do. They have one action. And we're actually going to take this Ranger squad, this rifle squad here, and have them push up 1-2. There isn't anything the US can do about it, so we'll have that be a normal action. I already dropped that on there because I was thinking about that. And that ends our turn. Let's clean up the battlefield and take a look. That brings us to the end of the 6th of 9 turns in the episode. I've cleaned up the battlefield. Tough turn for the Germans here, losing a rifle squad and a Panzer, the Panzer IIIJ, as well as suffering some casualties up here on the Ranger squad, not the rifle squad that had to retreat. They are, if they have one more unit wiped out, they would be in a potential withdrawal situation, and they don't have much left to try to wrest control of this farmstead away. I think we're looking at the last charge of the Tiger E tank and see if the Tiger can just run into it with its, I mean, that's the only thing I think we could probably do. They'll potentially have to withdraw before they can get that far, but I think that's the move here. Desperation, but one last heroic charge perhaps. From the US perspective, I think it's just continue to try to deal as much damage as they can. I'll put a link to the next episode as soon as it's ready. Love to hear your comments and thoughts. The next episode, we have 3 turns left, but with the reduced action turns, we will finish this episode, this battle, in the next episode.